The night was too quiet for a house with its lights still on. Officer Caleb Morrow stood at the porch of the old Granger property, his breath fogging in the cold. Inside, someone left the radio playing. A woman's voice humming a lullaby just off-key. His K9 Raven stiffened, ears pricking toward the door as if hearing something deeper, something human beneath the static. Then came the faintest sound, a whisper maybe, or a sob. Caleb reached for the handle. "Don't open that door!" A woman's voice screamed from inside. But Raven had already moved. The hinges creaked as the door swung open, a long, groaning note that seemed to echo through the bones of the house. Caleb Morrow stepped inside, flashlight cutting through layers of dust and shadow. Raven moved first, muscles taut, nose twitching, tail rigid in a low line of tension. The air was thick with mildew and something sharper, copper, maybe, the smell of old blood. County Sheriff Department. Caleb called out. His voice felt too loud in the quiet. The only reply was a low static from the radio on the kitchen counter, a tune still whispering like a lullaby from another century. Raven gave a short, restrained bark and veered left, toward a hallway lined with family photos. Faces smiled from another time, black and white portraits of farmers, soldiers, a young girl in pigtails. As Caleb passed, his light caught the glass of one frame smeared with fingerprints. He stopped. Not fingerprints, bloody streaks. A pulse of unease crawled up his neck. He raised his radio. "Dispatch, this is Morrow. I'm at the Granger property." Front door was unsecured. Signs of possible. Raven's snarl cut through the transmission. The dog stood at the end of the hall, rigid, teeth bared toward a closed bedroom door. Caleb's pulse kicked. He edged closer, hand hovering over his holster. "Easy, girl, what is it?" From behind the door came a sound, a soft, rhythmic creak. Rocking. Someone rocking in a chair. Sheriff's Department. Caleb's tone sharpened. "If you can hear me, make yourself known." Silence. Then a whisper, trembling and raw. "Don't open that door." Caleb froze. His mind scrambled to process it. Female voice, young, terrified. He took a slow step forward. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" "Please," she whispered again, closer now, right on the other side. "Don't open it. Please." But Raven wasn't listening. The K9 moved forward, growling low, pawing at the door as if something inside demanded attention. Caleb's instinct screamed two things at once. Trust the dog, but don't ignore the human voice. He hesitated. Then something hit the door from the inside. Hard. "Raven back!" he barked, drawing his weapon. The door shuddered once more, then fell still. Only the radio's lullaby filled the air. Caleb could hear his own heartbeat. He tried the knob. Locked. He leaned closer. "Ma'am, I can't help if I can't see you. What's happening in there?" No response. Raven whined, pacing, nose pressed a crack beneath the door. Her claws scraped the wood, frantic. "God damn it," Caleb muttered. He drew a long breath, braced his shoulder, and kicked. The lock splintered. The door slammed open, and the room beyond was empty. A rocking chair moved slowly, back and forth, though no one sat in it. A faint draft stirred the curtains. Caleb's flashlight beam swept across the walls, floral wallpaper peeling. Furniture draped in sheets, dust motes dancing in the beam. No blood, no body, no woman. But there was something on the wall above the bed. Words, scrawled in dark red letters. "He can hear her too." Caleb's throat tightened. He stepped back, the boards creaking beneath his boots. Raven was still growling softly, eyes locked on the empty chair. And then, without warning, the chair stopped rocking. The house went completely silent. Caleb found himself back on the porch minutes later, the cold air cutting through his uniform. He called in for backup, but the radio sputter was static. Too much interference this far out. He leaned against the railing, mind spinning. The Granger property had been empty for 5 years. The last occupant, a woman named Eliza Granger, had disappeared after calling 911 one stormy night. Her words recorded but never explained. "He's inside, but he's not alive." The deputies who responded back then swore the house was empty. No signs of struggle, no forced entry. Just that old lullaby playing on repeat. Now here he was 5 years later, hearing the same voice, seeing the same message on the wall. He glanced at Raven, who sat beside him, still staring at the open doorway as if expecting someone to appear. "You heard her too, didn't you?" he murmured. Raven's ears flicked forward. Something inside Caleb shifted then, a subtle, heavy dread, the kind that didn't come from fear of ghosts, but from the gut certainty that someone had been in that room, someone who didn't want him there. He turned off his flashlight and stared at the dark windows. There was movement. A curtain twitched, and in that flicker of light from the moon, Caleb could swear he saw a shadow, a human silhouette, standing just inside, facing him. By the time he raised his light again, it was gone. He drove back toward town, Raven silent in the passenger seat. The radio crackled with faint static, until a voice slipped through, calm, melodic, chillingly familiar. The same lullaby. Caleb gripped the wheel tighter. The transmission ended as abruptly as it began, leaving only static. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in his kitchen with the old case file spread out across the table. Photographs, transcripts, Eliza Granger's missing persons report. The photos showed the same bedroom, the same words on the wall. Only then, they'd been written in black ink, not blood. So what he saw tonight couldn't have been the same writing, unless someone had been back there. He flipped through until he found the final page, the dispatch transcript from Eliza's 911 call. Dispatcher: "Ma'am, where are you?" Eliza: "The old room, the one he sealed." Dispatcher: "Who's with you?" Eliza: "My son, but he's not breathing right." Pause. Faint static. Eliza: "Please tell them don't open that door." The rest was silence. Caleb shut the file. His reflection stared back at him in the kitchen window. Tired eyes, unshaven jaw, haunted expression. He'd seen too much loss in this town, too many unsolved endings. And something about Eliza's voice, about the way she said it, dug into him like a thorn under skin. He reached for his phone, scrolling to the contact list until he found Maeve Granger, Eliza's younger sister, who'd moved away years ago. It was after midnight when he called. She answered on the third ring, groggy but alert. "Caleb, it's been years." "I was at your sister's place tonight," he said quietly. "Maeve, there was someone there." A pause. Then, "You shouldn't have gone inside." Her tone wasn't angry. It was afraid. "What does that mean? Did you hear her?" Caleb's grip on the phone tightened. "You know something, don't you?" Maeve exhaled shakily. "I told the sheriff's office years ago. Nobody believed me. That house isn't just haunted, it's watching. My sister tried to keep it locked. That's why she warned them." "Warned who?" Maeve's voice broke. "The ones who built it. The ones who buried him there." Caleb's stomach turned cold. "Who's him?" But she hung up before she answered. The next morning, Caleb drove back. Not because he wanted to, but because he couldn't stop thinking about the look in Raven's eyes. That tension, that primal knowing. The house stood quiet in the daylight, more pathetic than menacing. The porch sagged, the paint peeled. He almost convinced himself it had all been a trick of the night, an echo in his tired mind. Until Raven barked once, sharply. She had found something. Near the base of the porch, half buried in the frost-hardened dirt, was a small wooden box, weathered, soaked through, sealed with rusted nails. Caleb crouched and pried it open. Inside were several old photographs, faded Polaroids. All of them showed the same little boy. Blonde hair, bright eyes, sitting in that same rocking chair. The last photo made Caleb's breath stop. The boy wasn't smiling. His eyes were rolled back, mouth slack, and a woman's hand, Eliza's hand, was holding his shoulder. Scrawled on the bottom corner of the photo, in the same red ink as the wall, "He's still waiting." Caleb stared at the box for a long time, the cold wind clawing at his coat. He looked at Raven, whose gaze was fixed on the front door again. This time, she didn't growl. She just sat there, trembling, and when Caleb finally looked back at the door, he saw it, faintly etched into the wood, as if by fingernails dragged through paint. "Welcome back." A quiet, eerie pause. If you've been following stories like this one, you already know they're never really over. Stick around, stay curious, and trust your instincts. Sometimes the truth is the thing waiting behind the door. The sun was already setting when Caleb Morrow pulled up again to the Granger property, the cruiser's headlights cutting through the haze that settled over the field. The air had turned brittle, sharp enough to sting his lungs when he breathed. Everything in him screamed not to come back, but something deeper, something older than fear, insisted he had to. Raven sat in the back seat, eyes locked on the house. She hadn't barked once during the drive, just watched, unblinking, waiting. Caleb shut off the engine. The silence afterward was heavy. No birds, no wind, just the ticking of cooling metal and the faraway groan of shifting wood. He picked up the box he'd found that morning, the one with the Polaroids, and stepped out into the cold. The porch complained under his boots. The word scratched into the door, "Welcome back," caught the light from his flashlight, pale and uneven. He touched them lightly. The grooves were deep, fresh. Raven growled. "Yeah," Caleb murmured. "I see it too." He stepped inside. The air felt heavier tonight. The same smell, mildew and copper, but stronger now, like something had been disturbed. The rocking chair in the bedroom still moved slightly, though there was no draft. He left the box on the table, spread the Polaroids out in a row. 5 photos. The first 3 showed a little boy playing, smiling. The 4th, his face slack, lifeless. The 5th, the one that had frozen. Caleb's blood had been taken from behind the chair, showing Eliza's hand on the child's shoulder. Only now, under the light, he noticed something he'd missed before, a reflection. In the mirror behind them, a faint figure stood watching, tall, thin, blurred by motion. "Male, Raven." His voice came out tight. The dog's head snapped toward the hallway. Then Caleb heard it. Faint footsteps above them. Slow, careful. Someone was upstairs. He drew his weapon, heart pounding. "Sheriff's Department. Come out where I can see you." Nothing. Raven moved first. Climbing the stairs was silent, practiced precision. Caleb followed, flashlight shaking just slightly. The second floor smelled of rot and something chemical. Maybe old cleaning solution, maybe decay. Half the doors were open, half shut. The walls were stripped bare, wallpaper clawed off in places. Then he saw it, a light flickering at the end of the hall, under a closed door. Raven barked once, sharp and loud. Caleb braced himself and pushed the door open. It was the attic room, and inside, someone had been living there. A mattress on the floor, cans of food, empty bottles. A portable radio, the same lullaby playing again, broken by static. On the wall, dozens of Polaroids were pinned up in crooked rows, every one showing the same boy. Some were blurred, others overexposed, but each taken from a slightly different angle, like someone had been watching him through the years. The last few photos, however, were newer. Caleb recognized the date stamps. The ink hadn't faded. They showed himself, standing at the Granger property the night before. And in one of them, in the window behind him, a small figure stared out, a child, pale and motionless. Caleb's chest tightened. "Who's there?" he demanded, voice cracking the still air. From behind the mattress came a sound, a slow dragging, like fabric scraping wood. Raven lunged toward it. A man burst out, thin and filthy, clutching a kitchen knife. Caleb reacted fast. Step back, aim low, drop it. "Now!" The man froze, panting. His eyes were wide and hollow, yellowed whites showing all around the iris. "You shouldn't be here," he hissed. "She told you not to open it." Caleb steadied his aim. "Who are you?" But the man didn't answer. He dropped to his knees, trembling. "He's awake now." Raven growled, closing in. "Who's awake?" Caleb barked. The man's lips curled in something like a smile. "Her boy. She never buried him. She couldn't." Then he drove a knife into his own throat. It happened too fast. A choked gasp, the thud of his body hitting the floor. Blood spattered the boards in dark arcs. Raven whined and backed away. Caleb knelt, pressing a hand to the man's neck, but the pulse was gone before he could even call for help. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. His radio crackled suddenly, loud in the silence. Caleb? This is dispatch. You there? He pressed a button with shaking fingers. Yeah, I'm here. I need backup at the Granger house. We can't locate that address, Caleb. Repeat, what house? He froze. The Granger property, off Miller Road. Static. That property doesn't exist on county records anymore. The line went dead. Caleb stared at the radio, then at the lifeless man on the floor. His mind reeled. The house wasn't on record? That couldn't be right. It was there, plain as day. He'd been here twice. He could see it, touch it, unless the house shouldn't be there. He stumbled back into the hallway. The photos on the walls, the ones of the boy, had changed. They were all facing him now, pinned slightly crooked as if someone had just shifted them. Raven whimpered, tail tucked. She backed down the stairs, hackles raised. Come on, Caleb said quietly. We're leaving. But as they reached the front door, a noise stopped him cold. A child's voice, soft, just behind him. Don't leave her. He turned. The little boy from the photographs stood at the top of the stairs, barefoot, head tilted. His eyes were cloudy, like the color had been drained from them. Caleb's mouth went dry. Buddy, what's your name? The boy blinked slowly. Then his gaze flicked toward the hallway. She's waiting for you. The lights flickered. The radio's lullaby downstairs warped, slowing into something deeper, more distorted. When Caleb looked back, the boy was gone. He didn't remember driving back into town. Just flashes, his hands gripping the wheel, Raven whining softly in the back, the radio hissing static that sometimes whispered words he couldn't make out. By the time he pulled into the sheriff's lot, dawn was breaking. The world felt wrong, like the color had drained out of everything. Sheriff Danner was waiting by the entrance, coffee in hand, brows drawn. You look like hell. Caleb stepped out, the words tumbling out of him. There's someone living at the Granger place. He's dead now. Cut his own throat. You need to send a team out there. Danner's expression didn't change. He took a slow sip, watching him. Caleb, the Granger place burned down 10 years ago. Caleb's breath caught. No, sir. I was just there. Twice. Then you were somewhere else. He pulled a yellowed file from his coat, the original Granger report. The cover photo showed what was left of the house. Blackened beams, collapsed roof, ash. Caleb's pulse thundered in his ears. I was inside, Sheriff, he said hoarsely. The door, the photos, it's all still there. Danner looked at him for a long, silent moment. Then he said, You might want to take a few days off, son. Get some rest. Caleb opened his mouth to protest, but the sheriff was already walking away. That night, sleep refused to come. He sat on his couch, Raven's head resting on his knee, staring at the box of Polaroids he'd brought home. He'd meant to drop it off as evidence, but something in him couldn't let go. He flipped through them again. The photos had changed. Where Eliza's hand once rested on her son's shoulder, now it was Caleb's. His own hand. Same scar, same watch. His stomach lurched. He dropped the photo, and for a moment, it sounded like it hit the floor twice. Raven shot up, ears pricked. Then came the whisper, right behind him, close enough to feel the air move with the words. You opened it. The lights flickered out. Morning came, gray and empty. Caleb woke on the floor, disoriented. Raven was pacing near the window, growling low. There was something outside. He stood, unsteady, peered through the glass. A figure stood by his truck, a woman, hair long and tangled, pale face turned toward the house. Eliza Granger. She raised a hand slowly, pointing toward the woods behind his house. Then she vanished. By afternoon, Caleb was in those woods, driven by something between guilt and obsession. Raven led the way, nose low, tail stiff. The forest was silent, except for the crunch of frost underfoot. After half an hour, they came to a clearing, a small, forgotten grave marked by stones. The name carved into the wood was barely legible under the rot. Michael Granger, 1987 to 1995. Caleb crouched. The earth was disturbed, loose, recently dug. He brushed aside the dirt and found another wooden box. Inside were more Polaroids. The same boy, the same house. But in every picture now, a dark figure stood behind him, half shadow, half man. The last photo showed the door of the Granger home, freshly painted. The same one Caleb had broken open. On it, written in red, "You let him out." Raven began to whine, backing away, fur bristling. Caleb's flashlight flickered, and in the faint beam, a small hand reached up from the soil, pale and trembling. He stumbled back, heart hammering. The hand flexed once, then fell still. Wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it a faint sound. The same lullaby from the radio, now sung in a child's voice. Caleb dropped the flashlight. The light spun wildly across the trees, and for a split second he saw them, Eliza and the boy, standing together, watching him. Then darkness swallowed them both. The screen fades to black. Sometimes the ones who warn you aren't trying to scare you. They're trying to save you. A quiet pause. If this story found you, stay close. Don't go alone. And if a voice ever tells you not to open the door, listen, because somewhere out there, the K-9 already knows the truth. The rain returned 2 nights later, a heavy, steady downpour that blurred the world into silver. Caleb Morrow sat alone in his kitchen, elbows on the table, staring at the Polaroids. The photographs had darkened somehow, the colors duller, the edges curling inward like they were burning from the inside out. Raven lay under the table, restless. Every few minutes she'd lift her head, ears twitching, nose flaring at something Caleb couldn't sense. He'd tried calling the sheriff's office again. No answer. Tried calling Maeve Granger. Line disconnected. Tried driving to the Granger property. Every time, the road dead-ended in a field that didn't exist on any map. It was as if the house had been swallowed. And still, every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. The chair, the boy, the door, the words, "You let him out." That night, the knocks began. 3 of them. Sharp, hollow, not on his front door, from inside the house. Raven growled, low and deep. Caleb reached for his gun. "Stay," he whispered. The sound came again, this time from the hallway. He turned slowly, pulse pounding, the rain beating harder against the windows. The lights flickered, then went out completely. The only sound now was Raven's breathing. He clicked on his flashlight. Its narrow beam caught the edge of something wet glistening on the floor. Water? No. It was thicker, darker. Blood. It led down the hall. Raven barked once, breaking into a sprint before he could stop her. "Raven!" He followed, boots pounding across the wood, until he reached the living room. The dog stood rigid in front of the closet door, the same low growl rumbling from her chest. For a long, trembling second, Caleb stared. The sound was coming from inside. Scratching. Slow, deliberate scratching. Then a whisper. "You shouldn't have come back." Caleb aimed his flashlight at the door handle and froze. The lock was turning on its own. The door creaked open. Nothing. Just darkness. Then Raven lunged. She darted into the closet, barking furiously. Caleb's flashlight beam swung after her, catching flashes of movement, fabric, dust, something pale, then silence. "Raven!" He stepped closer. His light shook. The closet was empty. She was gone. Caleb staggered back, panic clawing up his throat. He called her name again, over and over, but the only sound was the storm hammering the roof. He fell to his knees, breath ragged. "No, no, no!" Then, from behind him, a faint sound, claws clicking on wood. He turned. Raven stood there, wet and trembling, but her eyes weren't right. They reflected the light wrong. Too bright, too still. She stared past him toward the open closet, and then, in a voice that didn't belong in this world, a voice that seemed to echo from the walls themselves, came the words, "He's here." Caleb's flashlight shattered on the floor. The room filled with a cold, so deep it burned. His breath came in white clouds. Somewhere behind him, the radio came alive, static turning into a faint hum of that same lullaby. And in the flickering light from the broken bulb, the door at the end of the hallway, the one leading to his bedroom, began to open, slowly, too slowly. Inside was a boy's voice, soft and pleading. "Mom." Caleb swallowed hard. "Michael?" The air rippled, the sound stretching, becoming something else. "You opened it, officer." He stumbled backward, gun trembling in his hand. "What do you want from me?" "You took her place." Then the light went out again. When Caleb woke, it was morning. He was lying on the floor of his living room. The rain had stopped. The Polaroids were gone. Raven sat by the window, calm now, eyes fixed outside. Caleb forced himself up, head throbbing. The house looked normal. No blood, no broken flashlight, no sign of anything that had happened. He picked up his phone. No missed calls, no messages. The world outside went on as if nothing had changed. He almost convinced himself it was a breakdown, hallucination, fatigue, until he saw the dirt under his nails. Fresh, damp, and a photo, one single Polaroid, lying on the counter. It showed him, standing by a grave, Michael Granger's grave. But in the picture, the grave was open. By afternoon, he was back there. Same clearing, same stones. But the grave was sealed, undisturbed. He stood there for a long time, unsure why he'd come, maybe to apologize, maybe to end something that refused to end. Then Raven whined and nudged his hand. She was staring at the trees, tail low, uneasy. "Easy, girl," he murmured. "We're just—" The ground trembled beneath his feet. He staggered back as a sound rose from the earth, low, muffled, like something breathing beneath the soil. Then a small wooden cross toppled over, and a child's voice said quietly, "It's not me you should be afraid of." Caleb turned, heart slamming against his ribs. Eliza stood behind him. She looked alive, or close enough. Pale skin, hollow eyes, hair matted from rain. But her presence was unmistakable. "You shouldn't have opened it," she whispered. "I was trying to help," Caleb said. His voice cracked on the words. "You can't help the dead," she said softly. "Only keep them where they belong." He shook his head. "Then tell me what this is." "What I saw. Who's behind that door?" She stepped closer. "It's not who, officer. It's what." Lightning flashed. For an instant, Caleb saw something move behind her, a shadow that stretched too long, too thin. Eliza's eyes filled with tears. He needed a body to come back. "He chose you." Caleb took a step back. "No, he'll wear your face now. Your voice. He'll go where you go." Eliza. But she was already fading, her outline dissolving in the rain. "Stop him," she whispered, "before he opens another door." Then she was gone. Caleb drove straight to the sheriff's office, shaking, rain still dripping from his hair. The lot was full, deputies standing in clusters, talking. When he walked up, they all went silent. Sheriff Danner stepped out of his office, his expression unreadable. "Morrow, where the hell have you been?" Caleb blinked. "I just saw—" "Save it," Danner interrupted. "We've got a situation. Some lunatic broke into the Granger property last night. Killed a man. Cut his own throat, from what I hear." Caleb froze. "I was there," he whispered. Danner frowned. "Don't start that again." "No, listen to me. I was there. That man, he told me about the boy, about Eliza, about the—" "Enough." The sheriff's tone dropped low. "Dangerous. You've been off duty a week, Caleb. That property doesn't exist anymore. You need help. Son, not another ghost story." Caleb stared at him. "A week?" Danner nodded. "We found your cruiser abandoned out by Miller Road last Friday." Caleb's breath hitched. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Behind Danner, through the window, he saw something move. A man in a deputy's uniform, standing by his cruiser, his face turned toward the glass. Caleb's face. The world tilted. Danner's voice was a dull hum now, lost under the rush of blood in his ears. Raven barked wildly, lunging toward the door. "Raven, no!" Caleb shouted, but the dog broke free, charging outside. The other Caleb turned, meeting her halfway. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Two reflections made flesh. Then Raven snarled and lunged. The imposter smiled. The air cracked with the sound of a gunshot. When the deputies rushed outside, they found Caleb kneeling beside Raven's body, blood soaking the ground beneath her. The imposter was gone. Caleb's face was pale, streaked with rain and tears. He whispered her name over and over, hand trembling as he touched her fur. She'd saved him. Again. But the way she'd looked at the other version of him, the way she'd known, it told him everything. The thing wearing his face was real, and now it was free. Weeks passed. The official report said Caleb Morrow resigned after a mental breakdown. Some said he'd gone off-grid. Others said he'd been seen driving to the back roads at night, searching for something no one else could see. Only one person knew the truth. Sheriff Danner received a package one morning, no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. It showed a small boy sitting on a porch, smiling, a black dog beside him. On the back, in neat handwriting, "She's safe now, but I'm not." That evening, as the sheriff locked up, he heard a faint knock from his office door. 3 knocks. Sharp. Hollow. He froze. Then, softly, a child's voice on the other side. "Don't open that door."